Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Andres. Welcome to Doble Sports, my Spanish and English sports channel. This weekend we got the Final Four of the NFL playoffs. We got the AFC Championship game and the NFC Championship this Sunday. With that comes people's picks on who they think will win. I'll be doing the same, so let's get right into it. First, starting at high noon Sunday on the Pacific Coast, 12 o'clock Pacific time, we got the first game of the Final Four. We got the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Kansas City Taylor Swifties in the AFC Championship game. Yeah, Taylor Swift will be there, of course. Okay, in all seriousness, the Chiefs will be playing in their sixth straight AFC Championship game. And at this point, they're kind of like the Thanos of the AFC Conference. If you want to win a ring, you want to go to the Super Bowl and win it all, you've got to go through Kansas City. Like Thanos, they are inevitable. However, despite making it to the Final Four once again, it is clear that this team isn't the same as the Super Bowl winning team last year, especially on offense. While Mahomes is playing great football as an elite quarterback, Travis Kelce playing like a Hall of Famer, and as well as Isaiah Pacheco in the running back position, all three of them are playing well. The receivers have really struggled this year. In fact, the Chiefs have the most dropped passes this year, and turnovers have definitely hurt the team's performance. Fortunately for them, they have a really good defense. Defense has been good all year. And frankly, the defense has been the reason they have, stayed alive in games. The defense has kept them in games as well as the Bills kicker collapsing under pressure. That essentially saved the Chiefs' season last week, and that is why they are here. Meanwhile, the Baltimore Ravens, they are the number one team, and they have been arguably the best team in the NFL for the entire year. Last week in their game against the Texans, respect to them, they kept it really competitive, and the game was tied entering the third quarter, actually. And then entering the fourth quarter, it was only a 7-point gap in favor of Baltimore, where obviously in the fourth quarter, the Ravens' experience and talent would later result in the Ravens walking away with the win. But given that the Texans were able to keep this game competitive for so long, despite not having, as great of a defensive roster as other teams like San Francisco, like Baltimore and Kansas City, I mean, hey, dare I say the Texans laid the groundwork as to how to stop the Ravens offense based on their performance? I mean, it's possible, right? Well, if the Texans say they did establish the groundwork based on how they did the three quarters, and if a team with a good roster can manage to do that for 4 quarters, I mean, yeah, they got a chance, right? However, that would mean the Chiefs' defense will have a lot on their hands. First, you have Lamar Jackson in shotgun as the quarterback and likely the MVP this year. And with his mobility, he's essentially a running back or track and field athlete disguised as a quarterback. Zay Flowers has been arguably the go-to receiver this year for the Ravens and has had a really good season. They have really good tight ends that can catch the ball as well in Isaiah Likely. He's one of the stars on the offense as well. Mark Andrews is also coming back for the Ravens in this game as well. Not to mention this year, the Ravens did sign Odell Beckham Jr., and he's been good when they need him to be as well. So their offense has a really good roster. It has depth. So the Chiefs' defense will need to be tough in this game because the Ravens' offense is going to be really tough as well. For the Ravens in this game, in a way, they're kind of like, to make an analogy, folks at home, you've heard of like Avatar, The Last Airbender, that like Nickelodeon series with like the 4 elements and the one kid who's the master of controlling all 4. In a way, I feel like the Ravens are kind of like the avatar of the NFL playoffs. Specifically, Lamar Jackson is like the avatar and master of elements, of all elements in the playoffs. Because for the Ravens, I think their biggest strength is Lamar Jackson, especially with how well he has played all year. However, I also think Lamar Jackson is their biggest vulnerability at the same time. Lamar Jackson, for pretty much the entire season, has been the quarterback, the running back, and the playmaker for the Ravens. In terms of rushing yards, they do ask a lot of him, especially if you compare it to other teams in the NFL. In rushing this season, Lamar Jackson has a total of 821 rushing yards. That is the most of any player for the Baltimore Ravens. And in 5 of the Ravens games this year, he has had the most rushing yards. So they do ask a lot of him in terms of him running the ball himself. My worry, and okay, yeah, maybe this is the 49er fan coming out of me given that we lost our quarterback in the NFC Championship game last year. My worry is that the Kansas City defense is going to play tough and physical. So in a case where Lamar Jackson tries to run the ball himself, if he can't get down and slide in time, he's going to take a hit. And my fear is if he gets hurt and it affects how he performs, or worst case scenario, it forces him to come out of the game, I mean, it's like, that's it. It's over for the Ravens, because while they do have Tyler Huntley as a backup, he isn't anywhere near as good as Lamar Jackson. So in terms of in-game performance, while you will have a backup quarterback on the field, in terms of performance, there really isn't anyone else that can replace Lamar on the Ravens team that can do good enough with the other offensive weapons to win. With that, is there a high risk of Lamar getting hurt because he runs the ball himself a lot? The answer to that is yes. Is that a vulnerability for the Ravens? Yes. Will it happen? God, I hope not. That would be really, really heartbreaking. Just a really sad way to go down and just try to survive a game. As a 49ers fan, I know we had that last year when we ran out of quarterbacks. Just trying to finish the game looked brutal. And I really hope that doesn't happen. I hope everybody stays healthy and that it's a clean football game. A clean 2 football games this weekend, in fact. As for the Chiefs, offensively, I do think the big X factor would be how the receivers perform. If they have a good game and can catch the ball, I think they will be competitive. But if they play sloppy football like they have, most of the season, I think we will see turnovers hurt this team in this one. I think it will negatively affect the Chiefs, especially since they have struggled holding onto the ball pretty much the entire year. Highest in drops in the NFL. When writing my notes in terms of making my predictions, I also did believe it would depend on whether Kadarius Toney would play or not. Toney, one of Kansas City's wide receivers, has had to say the least, a really bad season with a lot of dropped passes or tipped and deflected passes, which would result in, tip and picks for the other team. I mean, there's literally compilations of him dropping passes this year. It's a bad year, it's a bad season when there's a compilation video on YouTube of your lowlights. Not to mention there was also his offsides moment that cost the Chiefs a win as well. When he is on the field, I'll be honest, it really does look like Mahomes has less trust in his wide receivers. And that lack of trust with his receivers has essentially put Mahomes and Kelsey in spots where it looks like they're forced to make magic happen. And unfortunately, Mahomes is human, so unfortunately has it hasn't always worked out and has ended with Mahomes throwing interceptions, the Chiefs turning the ball over, and, Mahomes being a bit of a turnover machine compared to last year when they did win the Super Bowl. However, today it has been announced that Kadarius Toney is out for this game, and the reasons cited were due to hip injury and personal reasons. Now, this statement and the news when it broke out on ESPN, definitely that's interesting, adding, personal reasons to why he won't play. In my opinion, I think the adding personal reasons is also trying to use that and the injury as a cover-up for why they would likely bench him. I think if he was healthy, they would bench him because he didn't play in the wild card or divisional round games for the Chiefs because of the injury, and they played and clearly looked better without him. So I do wonder if in truth they are using the injury as a cover-up to bench him. But with Toney out, I do think Mahomes will feel better about his receivers, especially the one that's been one of the worst performing on the team, not on the field. And I think this game will be more competitive and Mahomes and the Chiefs will score points in this game. However, I don't think it will be enough to stop the Ravens. And I do think the Ravens by a touchdown or 10 points, a touchdown and field goal, say. I think the Ravens will win this game. They do have a stronger roster. Right now, their quarterback is performing better. And their defense is one of the best in the league. So I do have the Ravens going to Las Vegas and advancing to the Super Bowl. Then, right after that, you got the San Francisco 49ers, my favorite team. You got the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Detroit Lions here in the beautiful Bay Area. So let's talk about the Lions first. They are right now America's feel-good story. They are a team that hasn't seen playoff football in decades, a fan base where most Lions fans of, Gen Z of my generation probably never even knew what the playoffs were until now because, frankly, up until now, their team never made the playoffs or even close to making it. So, hey, hats off to the Lions. They have had a really good run entering this NFC Championship game. And it's no surprise with them being the feel-good story. Most people are hoping they win. Jared Goff as quarterback has been really good. Sam Laporta, the tight end, has been one of the best offensive players for the Lions. Running back Jahmyr Gibbs has been great in the playoffs this year as well. The offense has been really good all year for the Lions, and they are arguably the next best team in the NFC outside of the number one team, that is the 49ers. And entering this week, the build-up to the NFC Championship, the trash talking has already begun as well. CJ Gardner-Johnson saying in a live Instagram video about Deebo Samuel, quote, "Don't be friendly when you see me, because I can guard you. You can't run routes, you're a running back." This is extremely bold for CJ Gardner-Johnson to say, given the secondary is without a doubt where the Lions are the most vulnerable. In the wild card versus the Rams, it was a shootout between the two quarterbacks because the secondary for the Lions didn't play their A game. They played more of like a B- to C tier game. And in the divisional round versus the Buccaneers, they made Baker Mayfield, who is normally a good to mid-tier quarterback who can have a good run, can have good games, but is nowhere near elite. They made him look like an elite caliber quarterback, letting him throw the ball for 26 completions of 41 attempts for 349 yards and 2 touchdowns. So this weak link in the secondary is something the 49ers will definitely look to capitalize on. Meanwhile, the 49ers, they have been the best NFC team pretty much the whole year and are the number one team. They are one of the most complete teams, and the trash talk, doubt, slander, hate, disrespect, whatever you want to call it, it's definitely not something the 49ers have been worried about. It's something they're used to. It doesn't bother them, including Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy, the quarterback, in Mr. Irrelevant, who was the final pick in the NFL draft, in just his second year and his first full year as a starting quarterback, he's been playing elite level football. And he's taken this team to 2 straight NFC Championship games under his time as a starter. Once the first year, his rookie year, being the third string quarterback, and then this year as a starter. And right now, he currently leads the NFL in yards per attempt, yards per completion, first downs per attempt, passer rating, total EPA, success rate, and total QBR. So Brock Purdy has been amazing this year. He has also been top 5 as a quarterback in versus man, when blitzed, when not blitzed, when pressured and not pressured, in the pocket, in the red zone, in the fourth quarter, and on third down. Despite his stats and amazing performances on field, many in sports media casted doubt because he never led a successful comeback from behind or without a star player. And, well, after last week, they did struggle in the rain. The 49ers did not have their best performance. It was raining. Brock Purdy did not have a very good game for the first 3 quarters. Well, he came in clutch in the fourth quarter and led that comeback. And the 49ers were able to win that game against the Packers. Well, after leading a comeback last week against the Packers in the rain, after Debo got hurt and had to leave the game, after not having a good first 3 quarters for Brock Purdy, they led the comeback, which is something the 49ers never do. They usually always lose when trailing entering the fourth quarter. I mean, despite Brock Purdy leading the team, to ending that curse of, trailing in the fourth quarter and then losing, media and people still doubt and, slander and continue to hate on him, saying, he's just a system quarterback, that the 49ers would acquire Kirk Cousins over Purdy and make him the starter if given the chance. Kirk Cousins as starter over Purdy? No, that's not happening. But yet they push that narrative. They continue to say, he's a failure, just a system quarterback. Tronco, troncazo, failure, lump on a log, fraud, nothing without the other star players on the team. And they continuously, media and sports segments, they continuously put him at the bottom of their, quarterback mountain while hailing Mahomes and then saying Dak Prescott should be in the MVP conversation over him, when Dak Prescott was inflated by teams with losing records. His stats were inflated by beating teams with losing records. And then in the big moments against the 49ers, against the Dolphins, and then in the playoffs against the Packers, he completely flopped. And then, yet they say Dak Prescott is somehow better than Brock Purdy. And then on top of that, yes, this was a real sports take. Some even argued he should not be Brock Purdy should not be the franchise quarterback because he wears a backwards hat. Are you kidding me? It's like say you hate Brock Purdy without actually saying I hate Brock Purdy. Because my gosh, for some reason, people don't like him and seem to want him to fail. How dare a Mr. Irrelevant player succeed? He's Mr. Irrelevant and we always call him that for a reason. We must treat him as such, We must hope he free falls into a NFL oblivion or whatever. They're quick to discredit, and they always move the goalpost and avoid giving him credit when due. Despite, so much criticism and such little credit and praise, hats off to Brock Purdy. He has continued to play well along with all the stars on the team. Brandon Ayuk, Kittle, Deebo Samuel, who is confirmed to play in this game after, missing most of practice and, trying to recover from his injury in the Packers game. Trent Williams in the O-line. Christian McCaffrey as running back. The offense has played amazing all year long. And the defense is no joke either. Led by, my favorite player. You see the jersey behind. Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, Javon Hargrave, Chase Young on the D-line. The D-line is no joke. It's tough. It'll be a lot for the O-line of the Lions to handle. Then you also got Charvarius Ward, along with probably the best linebacker duo in the NFL, and Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. This defense is tough. It is suffocating. It's on both sides of the ball. This team is loaded with talent, and they have played great, and rightfully so. They are the number one team entering the playoffs with the home field advantage and in this game. And while they struggled against Green Bay in the rain, they were still able to step up. They were able to adapt. And while they didn't play great, in the moment they needed to, they still played clutch and made the comeback. The 49ers will also elevate Curtis Robinson and wide receiver Willie Snead. So the team also has depth like the Ravens do, and with this depth, they will be even tougher in this game. In terms of weak links, I would definitely say they need to step up and stop the run game more. And also, you could say in the secondary with Ambry Thomas. Ambry Thomas did not have a very good game and got flagged twice, both for pass interference and both being very hefty yardage penalties. It will be interesting to see if they decide to switch that up and put someone else there instead. Along with that, outside of Trent Williams, the O-line has definitely been an issue for the 49ers. They will look to hopefully step up their game and be more in their element in dry, not rainy conditions and in their home turf against the Lions here. With that, I obviously will be rooting for my favorite team. I do think the 49ers will look much better without the rain in the forecast. And with this game being in a tough away atmosphere for Detroit, I feel the Lions will be taking on a whole different beast, a whole different animal here, because this is a playoff game and it won't be in their home stadium. They will not have the fans on their side. I also think the 49ers defensive line will try to pressure and blitz Goff a lot in this game. And I think the 49ers D-line will be able to get to him at many points in this game. And I think this is where the 49ers will have a greater advantage, as Jared Goff is not as mobile and has not been really good under pressure this year. Meanwhile, I think the 49ers on offense, when they have the ball in their possession, will try to have a very explosive and dynamic offense. And I think they can exploit the Lions secondary that did concede 349 yards to Baker Mayfield last week. So with that, for the second and final game of this weekend, I know only two, I can't believe it. The season's coming down to a close. But for these two games, I have the Baltimore Ravens advancing in the AFC Championship game. I think they will beat the Chiefs and go to the Super Bowl. I also have the 49ers in their game winning by 10 to 13 points and getting the edge over the Lions. While the Lions will be competitive, I do think that the 49ers, with their talent and stronger roster, I think they will end up walking away with it near the end. So I have the 49ers advancing by 10 to 13 points to the Super Bowl against the Ravens in Las Vegas for Super Bowl 58. Hopefully, it'll be an awesome game, and hopefully my Niners go all the way. I would love to see them finally go all the way. I've seen them twice in the Super Bowl and unfortunately lose both times. Hopefully third time's a charm, and I can finally see the 49ers win a Super Bowl. So, yeah, those are my predictions for the conference championship games of the NFL. Folks, let me know what you think in the comments below. Who will win? Who will lose? Who goes to the Super Bowl? Who, unfortunately, goes home? Who will have a great game? Who do you think will have a terrible game? Put your thoughts and ideas down in the comments. With that, go Niners. May they hopefully win and advance to the Super Bowl. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.